Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Yesterday I started talking about Bhagavad Gita, but a very important part of Bhagavad Gita is to know the background of it. Bhagavad Gita is a dialogue on the war front. On the war front, where the armies are ready to fight each other, there's going to be a lot of violence. In that extreme negative situation, Sri Krishna is telling the secrets of yoga to Arjun. This itself is a paradox. We think that yoga is to be practiced in the forest. Yoga is to be practiced in a place like this, ashram, away from all the chaos, where you find the peace within yourself. But look at this contradiction. The place where there is going to be a death, there is aggression, there is extreme stress, extreme fear. In that situation, Sri Krishna is opening the secrets of yoga to Arjun. So it's very important for us to understand what has brought these two people on the war front. What is the reason that they are there? And Sri Krishna, as one can easily see with the teachings and his personality through his stories, is undoubtedly a great enlightened yoga master. Now, if he is an enlightened being, what made him come to this war front, the battleground? And for that, today I'm going to tell you the story of Mahabharata. Bhagavad Gita is a small part of one of the chapters of Mahabharata, Bhishma Parva. Mahabharata has 18 chapters. One of the chapters is Bhishma Parva, towards the end. And Bhagavad Gita is a part of that. So I'm going to tell you this story. But the story, if you want to understand, you have to go back 3 generations before this Arjuna and Krishna's generation. So once upon a time, say about 5,000 years ago, that's the time period said by many historical researchers, like people studying history, and they have figured out that maybe the Mahabharata time is about 5,000 years old. There are some evidences they have found, some archaeological evidences also support this 5,000 year theory. So there was this dynasty who was ruling a kingdom, and the kingdom name was Hastinapur. And that Hastinapur kingdom, the dynasty was Kuru dynasty. There were many great kings in that dynasty. But the story of Mahabharata starts with the king. His name was Shantanu. And he was a great king with great achievements, very respected king, very powerful king, but good king. The story begins with his lady love. Her name was Ganga. So she was a yogini. He fell in love with her. Both of them married. Of course, this story of Ganga and Shantanu is also quite big, so I'm going to cut it short. The couple had a son. His name was Bhishma. And this name will remain there till the end. So it's a very important name for all of us. This young prince born to the royal couple, Bhishma, was really a tapasvi, like a rishi, like a yogi. With war skills, he was undefeatable. With his balanced wisdom, he was no less than a yoga master. With his intelligence, he was no less than a great philosopher. The king was very happy to have him as his son. He was very proud of his son. The kingdom was also feeling safe that he is going to be the next king. But then something happened. The wife of this king, the queen, she had this inner calling and she left the king for some advanced yoga practices and she left him. So the king felt very lonely and he felt very depressed. One of the days when he was just walking in the forest, he met a very young girl. Her name was Satyavati. And he fell in love with her. That girl was very beautiful, very intelligent girl. And he fell in love with the girl. He asked her, "Will you marry me?" She said, "I will have to ask my father." So the king came to this father of Satyavati. And the father was a smart old man. He said, "Look, king, I appreciate and I'm very happy that you proposed my daughter. But this son of yours, he's going to be the next king. So when you marry my daughter, you're just marrying her for your desires. Her son will have no right to the kingdom. If you promise me that Bhishma will not become the king and my daughter's son will become the king, I will allow you to marry my daughter." And that was a shock to the king. And he could not take it. He loved his son, Bhishma. So he said, "That's not possible." And he left that girl, who was also in love with the king. So he left her and came back to the kingdom. But after that, he became very, very quiet. He would not do much. He went into deep depression. Bhishma realized it. A young boy of 18 years old, Bhishma. And he started investigating what has caused this sadness to his father, because he loved his father. He always wanted his father to be very happy. He wanted everyone to be happy in the kingdom. But especially he was attached to his father. And then he came to know from them some secret agents who were working for the king and the kingdom. And they told him that there was this girl that the king fell in love with. But the father of the girl has put a condition for the marriage. And then Bhishma got upset. He said, "No, that's not good." So he went to meet the father of this girl. And the father repeated the same condition. Bhishma at that moment promised him and made a resolve. And the resolve was, he will never marry anyone and he will never have any kids and he will never become the king. But he will always protect the kingdom. The father of the daughter was happy and he gave permission for the marriage. So Bhishma brought that girl into the palace and requested his father to marry her. Father was embarrassed. He didn't know what to say. But now, because this promise was made, he had no choice. He requested Bhishma to not make such a tall promise, because that's not in the interest of the kingdom. But Bhishma did not agree to that. And this is actually the starting point of the story of Mahabharata. One person sacrificing his selfish interests and desires for his father's desires. And the father was not very happy with this situation. But then he had no choice. Naturally, after a few days, after a few months, few years, the father died. He was anyway old. He left behind 2 sons plus Bhishma and Satyavati. The two sons that he had, Bhishma made the elder one the prince and then the king, but he died in a battle. The second son had problems conceiving, like not conceiving, like having a baby. His wives. They took some help, some yogis, some Ayurveda masters. The two sons were born to this one. His name was Vichitravirya. But these two sons, there was some problem. The first one that was born was a blind prince. And the second one who was born, who was good, was physically okay, but he was very weak, anemic. And I almost crossed two generations. So one more generation and then we'll go to the background. I skipped many stories. This is a very complex story of Mahabharata. Every little thing has many connecting stories. And every story is quite interesting. So now these two princes, the two princes are born. One is a blind one, who is elder one, and the second one is the anemic one, but physically okay, but weak, on a weaker side. The blind one, his name is Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra. And the other one is Pandu. And these two, the story of Mahabharata starts. Serious story of Mahabharata leading to that war. So the roots of the war are here. This Dhritarashtra is a blind prince. Now he wants to become the king. He has a very strong desire to become the king. The kingdom has a rule book. The kingdom has a constitution. The kingdom has laws. And the laws clearly state that if the prince is physically not fit, then he can't become the king. For various reasons that were necessary at that time. Then the second one should be made king. If the second one is like that, third one should be made the king. So, naturally, in this case, the blind prince was refused. His stake, his claim to the throne to become the king. And the second one, Pandu, was made the king. This is where the jealousy started. This is where the hatred started. Because I want to become the king. That is that want, that is that desire. And that is that power hunger, that is ego. So this Dhritarashtra became the icon of power and desires and hatred and jealousy. On the other hand, Pandu was a very compassionate young man, fit to be the king, very wise with making the decisions with right and wrong and good and bad and positive and negative. Justice, truth is what Pandu represented. And he had no desire to become the king. But it came to him. He didn't want really the power, but it was given to him as a dharma, as a responsibility. Now this Dhritarashtra and Pandu both got married. Dhritarashtra, his wife was Gandhari. The story says that she was from the nation called Gandhar, which is right now, if you search for Gandhar, you will find it near Afghanistan. So that's the area that she was from. So anyway, so he got married to her. And the description in Mahabharata is very interesting. The couple had 100 sons. You'll say, not possible. Look, guys, the description is interesting. In parts, the 100 embryos were incubated. That's how the description is there in the books. Huh? 15 minutes. 100 sons were born to Dhritarashtra and Gandhari. And this Pandu, he got married to another beautiful princess called Kunti. She was from another kingdom in India. She was again exactly like her husband. Very devoted, very faithful, very intelligent, very truthful. Naturally, the qualities of these two differed. So the Dhritarashtra and his 100 sons became a representation of desires and ego and hatred and jealousy and selfishness. And the Pandu, he had 5 sons. They were called Pandav. The 100 sons were called Kaurav and the 5 sons were called Pandav. The Kaurav and Pandav, these two, you will need to remember now. Because the war is between these Kauravas and Pandavas. So I have crossed one more generation and I have entered into Kauravas and Pandavas. So the story of Kauravas and Pandavas gets even more interesting now. The Kauravas, the first of the eldest, his name is Duryodhan. And the Pandavas, there are 5. First one is Yudhishthir, second one is Bhim, third one is Arjun, fourth is Nakul, and fifth is Sahadev. You can only remember Arjun because the Bhagavad Gita is a dialogue between Arjun and Shri Krishna. It's a beautiful statue of Shri Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita is Shri Krishna and Arjun. And Arjun is one of the Pandavas, one of the 5 Pandavas, and 100 Kauravas. Look, the Pandavas, like their parents, represented truth, unselfishness, compassion, belief in values, justice, non-violence, all the yogic qualities that we talk about. The Pandavas represented those qualities. So these young little kids, they started growing up. But a tragedy struck this royal family. The king Pandu, he died of anemia, some complications and some disease, and he died. Now when he died, his little boys, they were very young. The 5 were very young. The 100 also were very young. They were same age. The question was, if they are so young, who will become the king? Bhishma, now he is a grandfather. Bhishma, you remember Bhishma. This is 2 generations after. So he is now a grandfather. Now he was looking after the kingdom. So kingdom was safe, but someone has to be there to rule. Because Bhishma is not going to rule the kingdom. He's not going to make the decisions. He's just going to support the kingdom. That is his promise. So the problem started here. Who should become the king? So the suggestion of the council of ministers was make Dhritarashtra, the blind one, a representative king of his younger brother. So he's not a king, but he's just a representative. And that suddenly boosted Dhritarashtra's ego and suddenly started feeling that all his wishes and desires have come true. Though the kingdom didn't really belong to him, he was just a representative, a signing authority. He was just like a letter of authority. That's it. He was not the king, but he misunderstood that and he started thinking that yes, I am the king. Because of this opportunity that he thought he has, he became more and more attached to that kingdom. And he started thinking that God has done justice to him now. Now the kingdom belongs to him. And he forgot that when this prince, the Pandavas, the eldest of the Pandavas, Yudhishthir, when he'll become 16-year-old, he has to hand over that kingdom to Yudhishthir because it belongs to the king Pandu and his elder son. Now, when Pandu died, these 5 Pandavas and 100 Kauravas, they were being trained together in the kingdom. But the 100 boys, they had this cunning attitude. They had this selfishness in them. They had this aggression in them. And that made them hate Pandavas. They always looked up to Pandavas as their enemies. Because they thought when the Pandavas will grow older, they will come back to ask for their kingdom, which is not their kingdom. And the Duryodhan, the elder Kaurav, he, with his other siblings, even went to an extent to make a plan to kill the Pandavas, even when he was as young as 10, 11 years old. Fortunately for these Pandavas, the 5, they survived that cunning plot. But that put a lot of separation between the cousins. And the Pandavas started realizing that they are not very safe in this kingdom because the Dhritarashtra, who was a representative king, was supporting his sons. He was not punishing them because he loved them blindly. He forgot that he has to make a justice and he has to stand for the truth. And the truth was always with Pandavas. But he forgot about it. Then, at the age of, when this young prince, they became 16-year-old, it was time to hand over the kingdom to appoint the prince. Naturally, the only right was with Yudhishthir, the Pandavas. So the blind king was forced by the council of ministers and the representatives from the people to make Yudhishthir the prince. Unwillingly, he made Yudhishthir the prince. But that made these Kauravas very angry. And they designed another terrible plot to kill Pandavas. And that plot was very interesting. Pandavas, when they realized that yes, like the kingdom is coming to them, they went on a pilgrimage, to offer their respect to the various religious places in India. Near Varanasi, the Shiva Temples, the very old traditional energy centers in India. So there they built some house of wax. These Kauravas, these 100 Kauravas, they built a house of wax, but it was disguised as a normal house. And they requested Pandavas to stay there. They said, let's forget about our differences and let's live peacefully. Pandavas thought, yes, very nice, Kauravas are welcoming us, so let's be peaceful because peace is most necessary. At whatever cost it comes, let's have peace. Pandavas were very happy. But then that house, when Pandavas went there to live, in the night, it was burned down. Luckily for Pandavas, the prime minister of the kingdom, his name was Vidur. He was very intelligent person with great network and great efficiency of management, and he came to know about this plot just a little bit, like a couple of hours before, and he helped Pandavas escape from there. Pandavas escaped that, but the situation became more uncertain and very tricky for Pandavas to come back to the kingdom. The king, the blind king, representative one, he declared immediately, instantly, next day, these Pandavas are dead. And immediately he appointed his son as the prince. The Duryodhan was appointed as the prince. Because that's the way that he could grab the kingdom. But anyway, he thought Pandavas are dead. He didn't know about this plot. His son did not tell him. But anyway, after a few days, Pandavas came back. And it was known to everyone that Pandavas are alive. Now the question was in front of the king, the question in front of this Dhritarashtra was, he has to give the kingdom back. And how he can do that? Because he was so happy that his son is now the prince and he has the kingdom. So he is rightfully the owner of this kingdom. But when Pandavas came, it was a tough thing to do. So the situation is very volatile with these two, almost on the brink of war. Pandavas wanting their right back, Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra not wanting to give it away. I'm going to take a break here and I'm going to continue this story tomorrow, because most important character of Mahabharata, the hero, the central character of Mahabharata is not Arjun, is not Dhritarashtra, is not Bhishma, is not anyone, but it's Shri Krishna. And I haven't even spoken about Shri Krishna and his story. So I'm going to continue with Shri Krishna's story, and then when Shri Krishna becomes old in the story, as old as Pandavas, then we will combine this story together. So I'm going to stop here. Thank you. Hari Om.